Norwich City Football Club is an English professional football club based in Norwich, Norfolk. During the 2012 Euro 13 Premier League season, Norwich City finished 11th, but were relegated back to the Championship at the end of the 2013-14 season, finishing in 18th place with 33 points, ahead of Fulham and Cardiff City. The club was founded in 1902 and first won promotion to the Football League First Division in 1972. Since then, Norwich have played a total of 23 seasons in the top flight, with the longest continuous spell of 9 seasons. Norwich have won the League Cup twice, in 1962 and 1985, and the FA Youth Cup twice, in 1983 and 2013. They were founder members of the Premier League in 1992 and Euro 93, finishing third in the inaugural season and played in its first 3 seasons, reaching the UEFA Cup third round. Norwich had most recently returned to the Premier League in 2011 after a 6-year absence. Since 1935, Norwich have played their home games at Carrow Road and have a long-standing and fierce rivalry with East Anglian neighbours Ipswich Town, with whom they have contested the East Anglian Derby 138 times. From the most recent results of this rivalry, Norwich are the current undisputed holders of the Pride of Anglia title. The fans' song on the ball, City, is regarded as being the oldest football song in the world. History. Norwich City F.C. was formed following a meeting at the Criterion Café in Norwich on June 17, 1902, and then a sub-meeting occurred on July 2, 1902 by a group of friends led by 3 former Norwich CEYMS players, Robert Webster, Joseph Cooper and Brad Scully, and played their first competitive match against Harwich and Parkston, at Newmarket Road on September 6, 1902. Following the FA Commission, the club was ousted from the amateur game in 1905, deemed a professional organisation. Later that year Norwich were elected to play in the Southern League, and with increasing crowds, they were forced to leave Newmarket Road in 1908, moving to the Nest, a disused chalk pit. The club's original nickname was the Citizens, although this was superseded by 1907 by the more familiar Canaries after the club's chairman dubbed his boys the Canaries and changing their strip to yellow and green. During the First World War, with football suspended and facing spiralling debts, City went into voluntary liquidation on December 10, 1917. The club was officially reformed on February 15, 1919. A key figure in the events was Charles Frederick Watling, future Lord Mayor of Norwich and the father of future club chairman, Geoffrey Watling. When, in May 1920, the Football League formed a third division, Norwich joined the third division for the following season. Their first league fixture, against Plymouth Argyle, on August 28, 1920, ended in a 1-1 draw. The club went on to endure a mediocre decade, finishing no higher than 8th but no lower than 18th. The following decade proved more successful for the club with a club record victory, 10-2, over Coventry City and promotion as champions to the second division in the 1933 Euro 34 season under the management of Tom Parker. With crowds continuing to rise, and with the Football Association raising concerns over the suitability of the Nest, the club considered renovation of the ground, but ultimately decided on a move to Carrow Road. The inaugural match, held on August 31, 1935, against West Ham United, ended in a 4-3 victory to the home team and set a new record attendance of 29,779. The biggest highlight of the following 4 seasons was the visit of King George Virgin Islands US to Carrow Road on October 29, 1938. However, the club was relegated to the third division at the end of the season. The league was suspended the following season as a result of the outbreak of the Second World War and did not resume until the 1946 Euro 47 season. City finished this and the following season in 21st place, the poor results forcing the club to apply for re-election to the league. The club narrowly missed out on promotion under the guidance of manager Norman Lowe in the early 1950s, but following the return of Tom Parker as manager, Norwich finished bottom of the Football League in the 1956 Euro 57 season. The 1958 Euro 59 season saw Norwich reach the semi-final of the FA Cup as a third division side, defeating 2 First Division sides on the way, Tottenham Hotspur and Matt Busby's Manchester United. In the 1959 Euro 60 season, Norwich were promoted to the second division after finishing second to Southampton, and achieved a fourth-place finish in the 1960 Euro 61 season. In 1962 Ron Ashman guided Norwich to their first trophy, defeating Rochdale for a Euro-0 on aggregate in a two-legged final to win the League Cup. Sixth place in the league was the closest the club came to promotion to the first division during the 1960s, but after winning the division in the 1971 Euro 72 season under manager Ron Saunders, Norwich City reached the highest level of English football for the first time. They made their first appearance at Wembley Stadium in 1973, losing the League Cup final 1-0 to Tottenham Hotspur. Relegation to the second division in 1974 resulted in the resignation of Saunders and the appointment of John Bond. A highly successful first season saw promotion back to the first division and another visit to Wembley, again in the League Cup final, this time losing 1-0 to Aston Villa. Bond resigned during the 1980 Euro 81 season and the club were relegated, but bounced back the following season after finishing third. The 1984 Euro 85 season was of mixed fortunes for the club. Under Ken Brown's guidance, they reached the final of the Football League Cup at Wembley Stadium, having defeated Ipswich Town in the semi-final. In the final, they beat Sunderland 1-0, but in the league both Norwich and Sunderland were relegated to the second tier of English football. This made Norwich the first English club to win a major trophy and suffer relegation in the same season. Something which was not matched until Birmingham City also suffered relegation the season they won the League Cup 26 years later. Norwich were also denied their first foray into Europe with the ban on English clubs after the Heysels Stadium disaster. City bounced back to the top flight by winning the second division championship in the 1985 Euro 86 season. This was the start of what remains in 2012 a club record 9 consecutive seasons in the top division of English football. High league placings in the first division in 1986 Euro 87 and 1988 Euro 89 would have been enough for UEFA Cup qualification, but the ban on English clubs remained. They also had good cup runs during his period, reaching the FA Cup semi-finals in 1989 and again in 1992. During 1992 Euro 93, the inaugural season of the Premier League, Norwich City led the league for most of the season, before faltering in the final weeks to finish third behind the champions, Manchester United, and Aston Villa. The following season Norwich played in the UEFA Cup for the first time, losing in the third round to Inter Milan, but defeating Bayern Munich. Winning 2-1, Norwich are the only British team to beat Bayern Munich in the Olympic Stadium. Mike Walker quit as Norwich City manager in January 1994, to take charge of Everton and was replaced by 36-year-old first-team coach John Darian who led the club to 12th place in the 1993 Euro 94 season in the Premier League. The club were relegated to the first division the following season. Shortly before relegation, Darian resigned as manager and his assistant Gary Megson took over until the end of the season. Martin O'Neill, who had taken Wycombe Wanderers from the Conference to the second division with successive promotions, was appointed as Norwich City manager in the summer of 1995. He lasted just 6 months in the job before resigning after a dispute with chairman Robert Chase over money to strengthen the squad. Soon after, Chase stepped down after protests from supporters, who complained that he kept selling the club's best players and was to blame for their relegation. Chase's majority stakeholding was bought by Geoffrey Watling. English television cook Delia Smith and husband Michael Wynne-Jones took over the majority of Norwich City's shares from Watling in 1996, and Mike Walker was reappointed as the club's manager. He was unable to repeat the success achieved during his first spell and was sacked 2 seasons later with Norwich mid-table in the first division. Nigel Worthington took over as Norwich City manager in December 2000 following an unsuccessful 2 years for the club under Bruce Rioch and then Brian Hamilton. He had been on the coaching staff under Hamilton who resigned with the club 20th in the first division and in real danger of relegation to the third tier of English football for the first time since the 1960s. Worthington avoided the threat of relegation and, the following season, led City to a playoff final at the Millennium Stadium, which Norwich lost against Birmingham City on penalties. The 2003 Euro 04 campaign saw the club win the First Division title, finishing 8 points clear of second-placed West Bromwich Albion and return to the top flight for the first time since 1995. For much of the 2004 Euro 05 season, however, the club struggled and, despite beating Manchester United 2-0 and Newcastle United 2-1 towards the end of the season, a last-day 6-0 defeat away to Fulham condemned them to relegation. A mediocre season followed in the Championship as the club finished in ninth despite hopes of bouncing straight back up to the top flight, and as results in the 2006 Euro 07 season went against City, the pressure mounted on manager Nigel Worthington, culminating with his sacking on October 1, 2006, directly after a 4-1 defeat at the hands of Championship rivals Burnley. On October 16, 2006, Norwich held a press conference to reveal that former City player Peter Grant had left West Ham United to become the new manager, and in February 2007, Grant replaced assistant Doug Livermore with his fellow Scot, Jim Duffy. Grant's side struggled for most of the season and worse was to follow. Norwich made a terrible start to the 2007 Euro 08 season, with only 2 wins by mid-October. Following a 1-0 defeat at fellow strugglers Queen's Park Rangers, Peter Grant left the club by mutual consent on October 9, 2007. On October 30, 2007, former Newcastle United manager Glenn Reeder was confirmed as Grant's replacement. Reeder, hired with the goal to keep Norwich in the Championship, managed to do so with a 3-0 win over Queen's Park Rangers, Norwich's penultimate game of the season. In the early afternoon of January 14, 2009 it was announced that Reeder had been relieved of his first team duties after 60 games in charge, and just 20 victories. A week later, Brian Goon was appointed as manager until the end of the season, but he was unable to prevent the club from being relegated on May 3, 2009, after a 4-2 defeat away at already relegated, Charlton Athletic. Following their relegation, their first game of the season resulted in a shock 7-1 home defeat against East Anglian rivals Colchester United. This was the club's heaviest ever home defeat, succeeding a record that had stood since 1946. 2 fans entered the pitch and ripped up their season tickets after just 22 minutes when the team were already 4-0 down, and Goon was sacked 6 days later. On August 18, 2009, Paul Lambert was announced as the new manager, leaving his post at Colchester, and 9 months later led Norwich to promotion back to the Championship as League One champions, after a single season in League One. The following season saw Norwich promoted to the Premier League, finishing second in the table behind QPR and completing the first back-to-back promotions from the third tier to the first since Manchester City in 2000. A generally successful season saw the club finish in 12th place in their first season back in the Premier League. Manager Paul Lambert resigned within a month of the season's close to take up the vacant managerial spot at league rivals Aston Villa, and was replaced by Chris Huyton. The 2012 Euro 13 season started poorly with a 5-0 defeat to Fulham and a bad run of form that was followed by a club record unbeaten run in the Premier League. A 1-0 home defeat to Luton Town on January 26, 2013 resulted in Norwich becoming the first English top-flight team to lose a FA Cup tie to a non-league side in 24 years. Norwich secured their third year in the Premier League with consecutive victories in the last 2 games of the season, to finish 11th in the league. However, they were relegated back to the Championship after finishing 18th in the 2013 Euro 14 season. Colours and crest. Norwich City's nickname, the Canaries, has long influenced the team's colours and crest. Originally, the club was nicknamed the Citizens, and played in light blue and white halved shirts, although the halves were inconsistent. The blue was sometimes on the left-hand side of the shirt and sometimes on the right. The earliest known recorded link between the club and Canaries comes in an interview recorded in the Eastern Daily Press with newly appointed manager John Bowman in April 1905. The paper quotes him saying, "Well, I knew of the city's existence. I have heard of the Canaries. This, as far as we can tell, is the first time that the popular pastime of the day rearing canaries was linked with Norwich City F.C. The club still played in blue and white, and would continue to do so for another 2 seasons. But the city of Norwich had long connections with canaries owing to its 15th and 16th century links to Flemish weavers who had imported the birds to the Low Countries from the Dutch colonies in the Caribbean. By February 1907, the nickname Canaries had come more into vogue. Thoughts that an FA Cup tie against West Bromwich Albion was a bird-singing contest were dismissed by the polymath C.B. Fry as humbug, but Bowman and Fry's colleagues in the national press increasingly referred to the team as Canaries. The following season, to match the nickname, City played for the first time in Canary livery. Yellow shirts with green collars and cuffs. One paper produced the quote, "The Cids are dead but the Canaries are very much alive." Apart from the obvious colour link, a canary may seem an odd choice. However, many English football clubs have adopted small birds as emblems that symbolise agility and deftness around the field. While the home colours of yellow and green remain to this day, the away colours have varied since introduction. The away kit for the 2012 Euro 13 season is black shirts and shorts. A simple canary badge was first adopted in 1922. The current club badge consists of a canary resting on a football with a stylised version of the City of Norwich arms in the top left corner. A competition was held to select the badge, with the winning entry designed by local architect Andrew Anderson. For the club's centenary celebrations in 2002, a special crest was designed. It featured 2 canaries looking left and right, and a ribbon noting the centenary. Stadium. Norwich City F.C. played at Newmarket Road from 1902 to 1908, with a record attendance of 10,366 against Sheffield Wednesday in a second-round FA Cup match in 1908. Following a dispute over the conditions of renting the Newmarket Road ground, in 1908, the club moved to a new home, in a converted disused chalk pit in Rosary Road which became known as the Nest. By the 1930s, the ground capacity was proving insufficient for the growing crowds and in 1935 the club moved to its current home in Carrow Road. The original stadium, the largest construction job in the city since the building of Norwich Castle, was miraculously built in just 82 days. It was referred to, by club officials, as the 8th wonder of the world. An aerial photograph from August 1935 shows 3 sides of open terracing and a covered stand, with a Coleman's mustard advertisement painted on its roof, visible only from the air. Floodlights were erected at the ground in 1956 whose £9,000 costs nearly sent the club into bankruptcy, but the success in the 1959 FA Cup secured the financial status of the club and allowed for a cover to be built over the South Stand, which was itself replaced in 2003 when a new 7,000-seat South Stand, subsequently renamed the Gerald Stand, was built in its place. 1963 saw the record attendance for Carrow Road, with a crowd of 43,984 for a 6th-round FA Cup match against Leicester City, but in the wake of the Ibrox disaster in 1971, safety licences were required by clubs which resulted in the capacity being drastically reduced to around 20,000. A 2-tier terrace was built at the river end and soon after seats began to replace the terraces. By 1979 the stadium had a capacity of 28,392 with seats for 12,675. A fire in 1984 partially destroyed one of the stands, which eventually led to its complete demolition and replacement by 1987 of a new city stand, which Chairman Robert Chase described as coming to a football match within the city stand is very much like going to the theatre the only difference being that our stage is covered with grass. After the Hillsborough disaster in 1989 and the subsequent outcome of the Taylor Report in 1990, the stadium was converted to all-seater with the corners being filled. Today, Carrow Road is an all-seater stadium, with a capacity of just over 27,000 supporters. While much of the support that the club enjoys is local, there are a number of ex-Hull fan clubs, notably in London and stretching from Scandinavia to countries further afield such as the United Arab Emirates and Hong Kong. The fan song, "On the Ball, City," is the oldest football song in the world still in use today. The song is in fact older than the club itself, having probably been penned for Norwich teachers or Cayleys FC in the 1890s and adapted for Norwich City. Although the first use of the tune and song is disputed, it had been adopted by 1902 and it remains in use today in part if not the whole. The chorus is: locally, much is made of the informal title Pride of Anglia. Fans variously claim the title for either winning the East Anglian Derby, finishing highest in the league, having the better current league position, having the more successful club history, or for reasons without any apparent logical basis. The club's main local rival is Ipswich Town. When Norwich and Ipswich meet, it is known as the East Anglian Derby, or, informally, as the Old Firm Derby, a comic reference to the Old Firm Derby played between Scottish teams Celtic and Rangers. Over the 134 matches played against Ipswich since 1902, Ipswich has the better record, having won 45% of the matches to Norwich's 37%. Another commonly employed measure for Pride of Anglia, and one that encompasses all of the East Anglian teams, is to dub the side finishing as the highest-placed East Anglian team in the Football League as the Pride of Anglia. The club also maintains a healthy celebrity support, with celebrity cook Delia Smith and comedian Stephen Ferry both having moved from fans of the club to running it. Actor Hugh Jackman is also a fan of the club, having been taken to Carrow Road as a child by his English mother, though he turned down an opportunity to become an investor in the club in 2010. BT Sport presenter Jake Humphrey, who was born in Peterborough but moved to Norwich with his family at the age of 9, is another celebrity supporter, along with Sky Sports presenter Simon Thomas, who is vice president of the Norwich City Supporters Trust, Norfolk-born musician, model and media personality Mylene Klaas, and Labour politician and current Shadow Chancellor Ed Balls. Ownership: Norwich City F.C. is a public limited company that, in 2003, comprised approximately 8,000 individual shareholdings. Since purchasing their shares from Geoffrey Watling, Delia Smith and husband Michael Wynne-Jones have been joint majority shareholders. At the 2006 07 Norwich City FC annual general meeting, Smith and Wynne-Jones announced that they would be open to offers to buy their majority stakeholding in the club. However, they made clear that any prospective buyer would have to invest heavily in the squad, with regards to team improving. On May 8, 2007, the football club announced that Andrew and Sharon Turner had bought out all 5,000 shares belonging to former board member, Barry Skipper, and had given the club an interest-free loan of £2 million. Mr. and Mrs. Turner are owners and directors of personal finance company Central Trust. During July 2008, Peter Cullen declared that he was interested in a takeover of the club, and pledged that he would invest £20 million for enhancement of the playing squad. On July 8, the EDP reported that Delia Smith and the board had invited Peter Cullen for talks. Reports later stated that the talks had been terminated with immediate effect, and no deal was to be reached. On September 2, 2008, Andrew and Sharon Turner announced that they were leaving the football club's board of directors. This left a £2 million hole in Norwich City's budget. On September 4, 2008, Delia Smith and Michael Wynne-Jones announced that they would be injecting £2 million, avoiding financial problems for the club. The 2011 annual general meeting, attended by over 500 shareholders, saw joint majority shareholder Delia Smith and Stephen Phillips re-elected as directors and new director Stephen Ferry formally re-elected, having joined the board the previous August. Statistics and records. Ron Ashman holds the record for Norwich appearances, having played 592 first-team matches between 1947 and 1964. Ralph Hunt holds the record for the most goals scored in a season, 31 in the 1955 Euro 56 season in Division 3, with Johnny Gavin the top scorer over a career Euro 122 between 1948 and 1955. Mark Bowen holds the club record for most international caps, with 35 for Wales. The club's widest victory margin in the league was their 10 Euro 2 win against Coventry City in the Division 3 in 1930. Their heaviest defeat in the league was 10 Euro 2 against Swindon Town in 1908 in the Southern Football League. Norwich's record home attendance is 43,984 for a sixth-round FA Cup match against Leicester City on March 30, 1963. With the introduction of regulations enforcing all-seater stadiums, it is unlikely that this record will be beaten in the foreseeable future. The highest transfer fee received for a Norwich player is £7.25 a million, from West Ham United for Dean Ashton in January 2006, while the most spent by the club on a player was the signing of Ricky van Wolfswinkel for £8.5 million from Sporting Lisbon. The club's highest league finish was third in the FA Premier League in 1992 Euro 93. The 2013 Euro 14 season will be Norwich's 24th in the top flight of English football. The club has won the League Cup twice and reached the FA Cup semi-final 3 times, most recently in 1992. Norwich have taken part in European competition just once, reaching the third round of the UEFA Cup in 1993 Euro 94 and are the only British side to beat Bayern Munich in the Olympic Stadium. Club sponsors: between 2006 and 2008 the club was sponsored by airline Flybe, but on April 26, 2008, it was announced that the company was stepping down as the main sponsor. On April 29, 2008 it was announced that Aviva, which has offices in the city and is the parent company of the former Norwich Union, would be the new shirt sponsor, having signed a 3-year contract. In 2009 the deal was extended until the end of the 2011 Euro 12 season. It was further extended in 2012 by 4 more years to the end of the 2015 Euro 16 season. Players, First Team Squad, as of July 1, 2014. Note: flags indicate national team as defined under FIFA eligibility rules. Players may hold more than one non-FIFA nationality. Notable players, past players who are the subjects of Wikipedia articles can be found here. During the club's centenary season, a Hall of Fame was created, honoring 100 former players chosen by fan vote. Further players have been inducted into the Norwich City Hall of Fame in 2003, 2006 and 2012. Greatest ever Norwich City 11, in 2008, supporters cast votes to determine the greatest ever Norwich City team. Kevin Keelan, Ian Culverhouse, Steve Bruce, Duncan Forbes, Mark Bowen, Darren Huckabee, Ian Crook, Martin Peters, Darren Eddy, Chris Sutton, Iwan Roberts. Players of the Year. For a more detailed list of these winners of the Barry Butler Trophy, see Norwich City Players of the Year. Captains. For a list of Norwich City captains, see Norwich City Captains, club staff, managers. As of May 11, 2014. Not including caretaker managers. Only professional, competitive matches are counted. Honours. Norwich City have won a number of honours, including the following: League, Premier League, 3rd placed, Football League 2nd Division, winners, 1971 Euro 72, 1985 Euro 86, 2003 Euro 04, runners-up, 2010 Euro 11. Football League 3rd Division, winners, 1933 Euro 34, 2009 Euro 10, runners-up, 1959 Euro 60. Cup, FA Cup, semi-finals, 1959, 1989, 1992 League Cup, winners, 1962, 1985, runners-up, 1973, 1975. Friendship Trophy. Each time they meet, Norwich and Sunderland contest the Friendship Trophy, an honour dating back to the camaraderie forged between fans of the two clubs at the time of the 1985 League Cup final that they contested. Norwich are the current holders, having beaten Sunderland 2-0 at Carrow Road on March 22, 2014 in the Premier League. In popular culture. In the 2001 film Mike Bassett, England manager, the eponymous hero, played by Ricky Tomlinson, rises to prominence as a result of success as manager of Norwich City, having won the Mr. Clutch Cup. The celebratory scenes of the open-top bus ride around the city were actually shot in St Albans, Hertfordshire, rather than Norwich. In 1972 the Children's Film Foundation released a movie called The Boy Who Turned Yellow, about a boy living in London who supports Norwich City. In the film, he and everyone and everything else on his tube train are turned yellow. That night he is visited by a yellow alien called Nick, short for electronic, who teaches him all about electricity. The link to the football club is used to explain why the boy already has so many yellow things in his bedroom. Norwich City Ladies. Norwich City Ladies is the women's football club affiliated to Norwich City. They are managed by Emma Fletcher. Norwich City F.C compete in the Women's South East Combination League, in the third tier of English women's football. According to Norwich City, they are the official women's team of Norwich City Football Club and are linked to the Girls' Centre of Excellence programme. Consequently, 95% of the club's players have progressed from the youth ranks. Norwich City F.C play their home games at Plantation Park, Blowfield, Norwich. Notes. References. Further reading: Canary Citizens by Mike Davidge, John Eastwood, Kevin Platt, published by Gerald Publishing, ISBN 0-7117-2020-7, Norfolk N. Good, A Supporter's View of Norwich City's Best Ever Season by Kevin Baldwin, published by Yellow Bird Publishing, ISBN 0-9522074-020. Second Coming, Supporter's View of the New Era at Norwich City by Kevin Baldwin, published by Yellow Bird Publishing, ISBN 0-9522074-1-9, Norwich City. Miscellany by Edward Cousins Lake, published by Pitch Publishing, ISBN 1-905411-70-7. Fantasy Football by Edward Cousins Lake, published by Legends Publishing, ISBN 978-1906796,525, Norwich City, Greatest Games by Edward Cousins Lake, published by Pitch Publishing, ISBN 978-1,908,051,462, external links. Norwich City FC. On BBC Sport, Club News, Recent results, upcoming fixtures, club statistics, NCFC official site, The Pink Un, BBC Norfolk's Norwich City page, Norwich City Anthem.